welcome back to my channel. This is Prepping by Faith, and this is episode 3 of What's in My Prepper Pantry. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you different items that I am storing. We're going to talk about the reasons, we're going to talk about quantities. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you are these great big bags of beans and rice. And I know there are people out there that don't really enjoy beans or they're not as keen on rice. So if you don't, then don't go ahead and store this kind of thing. For us, we don't eat a ton of this stuff, but I do like to have it on hand. I think it's one of those core staples that we should have as a backup plan. There are so many things that you can do with them to bulk up meals. So I think it's a good idea to have this stuff on hand. Now with dried beans, I have mentioned this several times on my channel, but one of the things that we stock up heavily on are the canned beans. You can also go ahead and pressure can these ahead of time yourself. And I would suggest that you do so just because of the large amount of water that is required to cook things like your beans. You do need water as well to cook your rice. So think about that. We need to be considering water in our preps as well. And it's not one that we talk about as much, but we use so much water on a daily basis. I don't think that we all even realize just how much. And you have to have plenty of water to rinse those beans and clean them thoroughly several times before you fill it up with a lot of water to cook them. So be considering that. If you can go ahead and have the canned on hand or pressure can some yourself, I would suggest you do so. But one of the great things about beans is not only is it healthy, it's got the fiber, it's got the protein, but they also swell up so much. So a 1 pound bag of beans is going to make a really good sized pot of beans to feed your family. So something like this 12 pounds, you would be able to feed your family 12 times off of. So take that into consideration when you are stocking up and thinking about long-term storage. With beans and rice, you guys can go ahead and package them up for long-term. These are not. And this is partially because of my climate. I've mentioned this several times before, but I live in Colorado. It's very dry here. I don't have to worry about things like pests and that sort of stuff and the humidity getting to this stuff. So with us, I leave it in these packages because they are already thick. I have not had any issues, thank God, with anything like that. I have done it this way for years. Many people will go ahead and freeze this in batches, let it dry out for several days, and then package it up for long term in Mylar with oxygen absorbers. I would suggest you do that for long term. If you're planning on keeping this stuff any longer than a couple of years, it would be a good idea to do so, especially if you live in a more humid, hotter environment. I would suggest you do so. And then always remembering to store this stuff in a cool, dark, dry place for long term. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is just rice. So one of the things I do is I make casseroles and things out of rice, and 1 cup of rice, guys, will go quite a long ways. So I've done the math on this big bag. This here is a, let's see, I don't know how many pound bag this bag of rice is. It looks like it is a 12-pound bag. So a 12-pound bag of rice using 1 cup, I would be able to feed my family just over 30 times off of this 1 bag of rice. So that is something really interesting that you guys should think about as far as math. I'm always talking about math and doing those calculations in order to have enough adequately stored up for your family. So rice, as we know, can be used to stretch meals. You can pour soups or stews over it. You can also make casseroles. You know, you can make some chicken flavored rice or beef flavored rice if you have your bouillon, whatever it is that you want to do with this. There are so many great things about it. So I would suggest, you know, doing some homework, doing some research. Be careful what types of rices you store, because brown rice with those oils in it will go rancid a lot quicker than something like a white rice. Now, your white rice is probably going to last you at least 30 years if you package it correctly and you store it properly. So that is just something I wanted to touch on. The other thing is, guys, having things like these boxed meals. So things like your rice-a-roni, your you can have all kinds of different flavors of these. They have all these different Knorr sides that you can stock up on. These pastaronis, this is something else that my family enjoys. So I stock up heavily on these because, you know, in a situation where you want something quick, you're going to need components like this in your pantry that you're going to be able to cook up quickly. If you guys are not comfortable with these ones because you don't like the fact that it may have, you know, GMOs, or it may have too much sodium or whatever. There are so many other options out there. There's all kinds of versions of these on the market. You can always find stuff, healthier options in your more healthy food stores like your Whole Foods. I'm sure they have plenty of different options that are similar to this, but maybe a little bit healthier. The only problem with that is you're going to get into a higher price point. And for our family, this is what works because we are also trying to be budget friendly and cost effective when we're storing these things. So these are just a couple things here to give you some ideas. I also wanted to share with you, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is something that my family has eaten since I was a little girl. My mom always bought this soup. It's very difficult to find. It's very tasty. It is just a box mix that you need some water to heat up. It used to come with a little gelatin-like ball in there that it doesn't any longer, but it does have the little flavor packet. It's a good alternative, another option. They do have one that has the vegetables in it as well. I get this from my King Super. So for those of you that don't have a King Supers, you could get it from a Kroger. So that's where I've been finding this. I do enjoy this. My family does. It makes up quite a bit. So this is something you might want to check out if you haven't ever tried it before. The Bear Creek soups, guys, is another really great one because they are, in this pouch. They're going to store flat for you. You're going to be able to keep these for a long time. We like a lot of the flavors. The only one that I don't like is the minestrone. And that is because it doesn't taste like a minestrone to me. It doesn't have enough tomato in it. It's very strong beef flavor. It doesn't taste like any minestrone that I've ever eaten before in my life. And none of our family enjoys that one. But we really like the creamy potato I have here. The tortilla soup mix is great. And then, what's this one? The chicken noodle, of course, is another really good one. I also really like the broccoli and cheese. There are so many of these. The only thing I would caution you with is just if you have a problem with sodium, you're going to want to be careful with these. One of these makes quite a bit. We always have plenty left over for my family of 4. It does say that it makes 8 servings, and I would agree with that. It does. Just be careful. I end up adding a little extra water because I do find that it is saltier, and I really enjoy my salt, guys. I do. I always add garlic salt to everything I'm cooking, but this soup is a little bit on the saltier side, so I would add a little bit extra water than what it calls for. Do not, it'll say on the package, add salt and pepper to taste. Avoid adding the salt until you've tasted it and you're okay with it. The other thing is, it says that it cooks up in 15 minutes. I don't know if it's because of my altitude, but I have found that it takes closer to double that amount of time, somewhere in that 25-30 minute time frame. I don't like my stuff, really al dente. So as far as potatoes and stuff, I want them done. So that's something else to keep in mind. Baking soda. I think this one is just something that everybody should have in their preps, plenty of it. Not only is it good to, use in our baked goods, our baking, our cooking, but it has so many other wonderful uses. You use it for deodorizing, you can use it for cleaning. There are so many purposes to baking soda, whitening your teeth, using it as, a toothpaste if you run out. Just stain removal and polishing silver and, clogged drains. You can use this in combination with vinegar for clogged drains. And for those of you that aren't storing Drano, this is something that you should have. So I would highly recommend having plenty of large bags of baking soda. And it doesn't go bad, guys. This is something that is a forever item. So stock plenty of this in your preps. The other thing I wanted to touch on is just marinades. So having all these, you can harp these already packaged marinades. These are great. They last quite a while, usually a couple of years at least. So this is the carne asada. And this is by a company called Tapatio. And then this is the citrus pollo asada. So this is like a chicken. And then the other thing I have here is just some teriyaki. I store plenty of bottles of this teriyaki. I love this. We can use it on so many things. And it's excellent if you are marinating a piece of meat, especially a steak. I like to marinate a steak in this with some fresh garlic. Oh my gosh, that is so good. You don't have to do anything else to it. Just, leave it in this for about 4 hours, making sure you turn it over at least once to make sure both those sides get it really well. But that's something that you can do. The other thing is you can make your own marinade. So if you guys have, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of homework, but most of the time you can use some soy sauce, things like, an oil, like an olive oil. ginger, honey. There's so many different spices and things that you can combine to come up with some really great marinades. So do your homework on that and store the ingredients for that, because we want to add as much flavor as we can. Food fatigue is a thing. The other thing that we don't talk about a lot is that drink fatigue would also become a thing in a situation where we couldn't get, a lot of us are used to our sodas, we're used to our bottled juices, all these other things we don't even think about. So having things on hand like these powdered drink mixes are going to be great, things like your Gatorade, but you also have teas and coffees, and this is just a chocolate milk. You have, the powdered different flavors of, fruit punch and all these other things that you can add to your prep. So be thinking about ways to put up some powdered drink mixes and tea bags and all that to not have, drink fatigue in your house as well, especially if you have children. They do get tired of water eventually, and having something like this could be a huge morale booster. So these are just some things that I wanted to share with you this time in my episode of what's in my prepper pantry, get you guys thinking about some other things to add to your preps if you haven't done so already, and the reasonings behind it. I did want to touch on one other thing here I forgot to mention. Also, these big boxes of things like applesauces are great, and these go-go squeeze things are really nice to have on hand as well. This stuff is going to last you a while. It's going to last well beyond an expiration date because of those natural sugars and things that are in there to help preserve this. So think about containers of things like this. Yes, you can have, your fruits inside of your cans, but it's also nice to have things like this when you get tired of that. So just be thinking, branching out, coming up with, alternatives to all the items that you have. It's a good idea to have variety when you are stocking up your prepper pantry. If you guys have enjoyed this video today, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. And remember to pray, prep, and put God first. God bless.